This is the Lydia and Spin with Lydia Lunch and Tim Dahl. Yes, episode 75. I have to say, I read an article today, Tim, that it bears in total repeating. It was in Raw Story, and it's by Tom Hartman, who's a progressive talk radio host. And this was put out by the Independent Media Institute. So bear with me on this one. It's time to defund the GOP, and there's precedent and strategy for the effort. The need to cut the party's access to both private and government money is seen in the reaction by some extremist Republicans to news, like a New York state lawmaker's proposal to make vaccination against COVID-19 mandatory. Predictably, the far right is freaking the fuck out. He didn't say fucking, I did. Freedom, they scream as they run around maskless, assaulting their fellow citizens with potentially virus-laden breath. Large parts of the Republican base now join conspiracists in the misguided belief that vaccine manufacturers are participating in mind control experiments and that public health measures like masks are un-American, while we're being sickened and dying from the highest rate of COVID-19 infection and death in the developed world. Republicans on the Supreme Court even say the founders of our republic and the framers of the Constitution would never go along with preventing churches and synagogues from holding super spreader events during a pandemic. But, like so many things, GOP, it's a lie. In 1798, President John Adams signed the first public health care legislation. It was to pay for medical care and hospitalization, not just for the Navy, but also for civilian sailors, as both he and George Washington had participated in quarantine events during the epidemics in the summers of 1793 and 1798. Both promoted inoculation against smallpox. And if you don't know what smallpox looks like, terrifying. From 1790 to 1800, Philadelphia was the nation's capital. When the yellow fever epidemic of 1793 recurred in 1798, the city's Board of Health, with no objections raised by President John Adams or any member of Congress, ordered a block-by-block evacuation of parts of Philadelphia. Most signers of the Declaration and Constitution were still alive, and many were in Congress and on the Supreme Court, but none opposed the lockdown. Churches not only couldn't meet, I feel they never should, that's me speaking, a few in the quarantine areas were closed down entirely for much of the year in America's capital city. From their bans on teaching sex education and evolution in our schools, to denying climate change, to this latest campaign against public health, far-right Republicans' fight against science has damaged America's standing in the world and destroyed the lives of millions. Thomas Paine, in his time, wrote about the age of reason. Today, we have the age of intentional Republican stupidity. And they don't just embrace it for themselves, they're hell-bent on imposing it on every American from school children on up. They have rigged elections by making it hard to vote, seditiously tried to overturn the 2020 election, promoted racial and religious bigotry and violence, destroyed our public school systems, gutted our unions, rewritten our tax systems to screw the middle class. Since the election of Ronald Reagan, Republicans have damaged America more in 40 years than our worst enemies could have dreamed of by any other means. Those Republicans were not patriots. They're traitors. Traitors to reason, to science, to education, to human rights, to democracy, and now, unbelievably, public health. They're traitors to humanity itself. The only way to deal with a death-dealing cult is to end it. Thus, we must embark on a campaign to defund the Republican Party. Back in 1981, the Republican Party decided to defund the Democratic Party and actually pulled it off. While the Republican Party had principally been funded by rich people and big businesses since the 1920s, the Democrats were largely reliant on the labor unions. So Ronald Reagan, as part of his Reagan Revolution, figured the best way to destroy the Democratic Party was to destroy America's unions. His first shot was to destroy PATCO, the Air Traffic Controllers Union, and he did it in less than a week in the August of 1981. Subtext here. A great book about this is by Ronald Stitch called Defunding America. I'm not finished. He, along with Republicans in Congress and conservatives on the Supreme Court, then embarked on a campaign to eliminate unions from the American landscape, thus gutting the Democratic Party's ability to win elections. It worked. And by 1992, American union membership and unions' ability to fund elections had collapsed so severely that Bill Clinton and the Democratic Party turned to giant corporations and billionaires to win that year, no doubt. Reagan's plan not only kneecapped the Democratic Party for the next 40 years, but also changed the party at its core, turning it from President Lyndon B. Johnson's Great Society Party into Bill Clinton's corporate-friendly Democratic Leadership Council, New Democrats, now in bed with big banks, insurance companies, etc., which is why I was never for Hillary Clinton in the first place anyway either. But then again, defunding the Republican Party may even force it to start focusing on the needs of regular people rather than billionaires and corporations, which only adds to the urgency of the job. There are just a few steps through the process, which include 1, end red state welfare. Kentucky, Mitch Moscow McConnell, gets $2.41 for every dollar they send to Washington, D.C. Most other red states are similarly taker states. So let's fight for a law limiting states to no more than say, $1.50 for every buck they sent to D.C. in tax revenues. Call it welfare reform. 2, and corporate welfare that gets recycled to GOP politicians. This includes $700 billion a year to fossil fuel companies and nearly $1 trillion a year we give to big pharma, as well as support for insurance companies like subsidies for the Medicare Advantage scam and Big AG. 3, and corporate monopolies. Break up giant corporations and make America safe again for small businesses while rejuvenating local economies, from airlines to tech to banking and retail. Giant monopolies rip off working class Americans and use some of that money to fund the GOP. How about bringing back Eisenhower's 91% top tax rate, or at least something north of 50%? America's strongest economy was during the 30 years from 1950 to 1980, with a top tax rate of 91% to 74%. Progressive taxation on the super wealthy was openly supported by Republican presidents like Eisenhower, Nixon, and Ford. With that tax revenue, we built highways, schools, hospitals, and put men on the moon. While the best way CEOs could avoid the tax was to use the money to pay their workers better wages. Reagan cut that top rate to less than 30%, and the billionaires that produce now pour money into the GOP to keep it that way. Follow Europe's example and impose a wealth tax on great fortunes. Average Americans pay a wealth tax every year, the property tax on their largest store of wealth, their homes. Billionaires should pay a similar annual tax on their money bins. And campaign contributions from corporations, and super PACs, and limit billionaires' ability to skew our politics with their money. We did this in the 1970s after the Nixon bribery scandal, but the Supreme Court blew it up. There are multiple ways around that, and the Democratic Party should make this job number 1. These simple progressive contract with America steps, along with restoring the ability of American workers to unionize, will not only revive the Democratic Party, but will also restore America to economic greatness and give us a far more honest political system. Now, this article, thank you very much, Tom Hartman, was produced by Economy for All, a project of the Independent Media Institute. Now, I'm not a fan of the Democrats any more than I am of the fucking Republicans. However, that pretty much accurately sums up what we have to do to both parties ASAP. Hello, Tim Dole.
Well, it's strange, with Reagan and breaking up the unions, that ultimately it was blue-collar whites that the Republicans managed to hoard up. The Democrats, of course, let go of labor in the 70s. And, the spark was the Chicago Democratic Convention riots, where it was basically old school Democrat, working class, Irish, Italian cops beating up the new wave Democrat hippies. Like, what the fuck's your problem? You have everything. What are you complaining about? So, that baton's been passed, and it's now white blue collars that are really Republican. They've been tricked. I don't know what's going on. I mean, also the Democrats, they basically, they went to Wall Street, went to big business to get their money, and they give a little lip service. They throw a little bone for some social issues, like we don't hate homosexuals. We're progressives on these really at the most insincere light level, but in reality, they're down.
The bottom line is they're still all banksters. They're still all corporate whores. They still pour too much money into the Defense Department and the Pentagon, no matter who's in a position of power, and the whole system has to be completely reconfigured. Now, give me some other news right now, please.
Well, yeah, but
I blow a gasket.
Well, I'm gonna just kind of taper this one off, because this is
taper it off.
I'm a little mad here, because basically 45 out of the top 50, the biggest companies in America, turned ginormous profits since March. They were given money. huge bailout money. Meanwhile, it's happening all over. All these unemployment agencies they say 27% of society has been overpaid for bailing. So you have people who are making like families, single moms. They're like getting letters like, you owe us $12,000, and they're like, well, it's spent. I had to feed my family, and that's a quarter of our society. Meanwhile, unanimously they pushed through a $700 billion military funding for 2021. They still haven't paid people back. They're attacking the people. I'm curious where this is going to fucking go.
Now, by their statistics, and I don't believe it because I think this is triple, if not quadrupled, if not unimaginably more, 8 million more people in poverty. And we already know that, look, it's almost half the country that is living with their chin to the gutter on poverty existence. Well, 1 in 4 children are going to bed hungry in this country. Now, first of all, you shouldn't be breeding in a time like this, but second of all, children should not go hungry.
So now I'm going to talk about the people that are working remotely. There's some fun stats that came out. So they say close to 40% of people that work remotely are drinking on the job. They're actually having drinks during the day. Musicians, we get to do that already, but now that you have these huge populations, like, hey, I kind of like this. 32% say their caffeine intake has gone way up.
How many more are microdosing?
Well, that's a hard stat to find.
I'm going to do some research. Go ahead.
23% are habitually staying in their PJs all day. That's
the slobification of America. It started with t-shirts and it's ending with pajamas. Next it'll be onesies.
33% say next level insomnia, tossing and turning. 45% say they think they'll never be able to break these newly developed habits.
Well. Oh, well. I'm fickle. I always try to have new habits instead of, and by the way, I'm just going to say this right now. I never make a New Year's resolution. I'm making a resolution until the New Year's to not listen to any more fucking news stories, to not read any more newspapers. I'm just going on a total comedy binge. I don't even like most comedy. I'm going for Nick Kroll show. I'm going for Nikki Glaser. I'm going for Middle Ditch and Schwartz. Thank you, Weasel, for suggesting that. I'm going for RuPaul's Drag Race if I have to, just to avoid the continual repetition of the bullshit, the cockocracy that's just still pissing all over everybody. And all we're hearing is COVID, 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 to quote the idiot, and his temper tantrums. I'm taking a hiatus.
Well, it's funny you say that because that's one of the stats I left out. There's a huge percentage, because I don't have it written down. The huge percentage of people are immediately drinking as soon as the news comes on.
Why wait? It's on 24/7.
I mean, comedy. Weasel recommended to me the other day, and I got to see it because I never saw it. I saw Delta Force, but the Chuck Norris 1985 Invasion USA.
None of these movies you boys love ever. And you know what? My attention span is not great enough. I just can't. Your fixation with Airplane and all of the blues, I don't go there. Anyway.
Oh, this is not that. All right.
All right. Nikki Glaser, not safe. Thank you. Give me an animal story.
Animal story. Well, as we found out earlier this year, felines can get COVID because the tigers and the Bronx Zoo got it.
Snow leopards now. I know. They're
all getting it, and people's cats are getting it. Now this lab.
By the way, I just have to cut in. I did see somebody I'd like in my new band. It was a cat playing a piano today with a guitar player. I'm just saying that's why I read the Daily Mail. It was sure.
No, I mean, now jazz musicians used to refer to each other as cats, but I don't know.
Well, they had other infections besides COVID.
Yeah, sure.
Fortunately, most of the greats have passed. Otherwise, they probably would have had COVID by now.
Well, so it turns out cats. They discovered in this Latvian lab, or I don't know where it was in Latvia. For some fucking reason, cats, all felines, can recover from COVID just considerably faster than humans can. They basically get through it. And
well, now we need the dogs who can sniff out COVID to sniff the cats, and then they can sniff us out.
They're trying to figure out why. So they're doing all these cell tests, but somehow cats have a stronger immunity to COVID-19. So going back to not trusting science amongst Republicans or all that stuff. So there's all these stats they've done all these surveys on the vaccine and how society is reacting to the idea. Pence claims he's going to go on TV and get an injection.
I'd like to take him on YouTube and give him an enema because he's so full of shit.
That guy is so. It's like this. He tries to take the mannerisms of Reagan.
He's a man bot. He's a man bot.
He's not very likable.
He's not human.
He's creepy. So
hey, wait a second.
Yes.
I'm creepy. But he's
all right, sorry.
Creepier. He's creepier.
No, he's a total piece of shit. How about that?
All right, fine.
Right, so 27% of Americans say 27% of Americans say they'll definitely take the vaccine as soon as it's available to them. 25%, I don't know why they would do this, said, I'm going to wait a couple weeks. Okay, that's going to make a difference. And then there's 15% who said, I want to give it a year. But
look, excuse me, they're going to have to give it a year because there's not enough vaccines to go around anyway. I'm
talking about from when it's available to them. So this is all going to change. 26% of Republicans say they'll never take it.
Well, good, because you know what? I never want to hear about another Republican as long as I live. And I'm going to outlive almost every Republican.
Well, who even trusts the system less, and maybe justifiable?
It's time to bring back somebody like Typhoid Mary. It's like, if I was truly the super spreader I wish I was, I would just go and have a field day.
African Americans who don't trust the system, that's fair. Considering
why should they?
Exactly. Well, what that means now, though, is close to 30% of them say they'll never take the vaccine. And, my brother works for the CDC, and it's kind of interesting because, before all this, there was a whole anti-vaxxers movement that's been kind of taking off just, kind of all over the industrialized world. What he always says to me, he goes, first of all, of course, vaccines aren't perfect, but they have incredible results by the time they're approved. He basically says, they all say big pharma and all this shit. He's like, big pharma hates vaccines. It does. There's not enough profit in them, so it's actually a bunch of bullshit. He was assigned to giving these kind of like report cards on general health of different countries around the world, and it was kind of random. It was like South Korea, but then it was like Morocco, and I said, well, of course, like the wealthier countries have better health stats, and he's like, strangely enough, no, Morocco's got some of the best recent stats. The Queen, feels so guilty about her the royal family's past, so she's done these like, it's a monarchy. She's forced mass vaccination. And their fucking disease stats, all that shit has gone just way the fuck down.
By the way, their diet is a lot better as well. Let's face fact.
Sure. I mean, Morocco, complicated. When the Rolling Stones used to party there, it sounded like pretty fun. I don't know if I want to go there now. All right.
Just tie it up, Tim. Right now,
tie it up, Tim is my new fucking nickname. If you don't mind. All right.
I don't. Tie it up, Tim.
Tie it up, Tim.
All right, to replace Stalin Doll and Doll the Diva and the New York Doll and Solo Doll. All right, tie it up, Tim.
Well, I mean, who's our guest? I'll tie it up with that. Who's our guest this week?
Well, first of all, before we even get to our guest, which is Matt Korvette of Piss Chains.
Oh, okay.
All right, can't wait to rub up against him again. I just want to say, well, of course, I'm excited about him. He always gets me excited, but I'm excited about our upcoming Christmas special. And it's strange because the other night you said to me a line that I've often said, and let's put the X, or as I like to say, XXX back in Christmas.
Yes.
So we have a Christmas special, and this was Stalin tie him up Tim Doll's concept, that we do kind of a Siskel and Ebert by playing a few. Look, I've been to parties at Tim Doll's house where he knows the look in my eye if I don't like the music. So we're going to each choose a few tracks.
We're gonna pick each of us, and we're gonna send each other tracks without our opinions,
and then
we're gonna have a little thumbs up, thumbs down dialogue on the tracks, and we'll play excerpts I mean, it's going to take too long for us to play the whole things, and you'll have to kind of go out and check it out yourself. If you want to hear
We'll
the whole
see
thing.
what happens. But anyway, that's going to be the Christmas special. And then the New Year's special is going to be with a kind of a party pod with a
Mhm.
variety of previous guests.
It'll
We'll
be
know
like
more about that next
yeah.
week.
So kind of we'll round up some of our guests from selected guest party vibe guests from the past year. Have a little champagne toast
because we're all going to be doing it in isolation.
Well,
this year
the show goes up late night on Thursday, which will be I think that's New Year's Eve. So we'll actually line up with the dumb celebration of New Year's. I always thought it sucked. I mean, everyone's New Year's is their birthday, right? So what is this? Some Roman calendar shit?
Look, the same way that every day is my birthday, every day is a new year for me because 24 hours is long enough for any year. And this year has been so freaking long.
I know.
I can't wait to bust a bottle of champagne over the
Lydia,
nearest person's head.
Two questions. First of all, do you know if they're dropping the ball in empty fucking Zombieville ghost town Times Square this year anyways?
I'm sure they are.
They probably are. Next question, and you don't have to answer. Would you get the vaccine if it was available to you immediately?
I am the vaccine.
Ooh, good answer.
This is the Lydian Spin with Lydia Lunch, Tim Dahl, and our special guest, Matt Korvette of Piss Jeans. This is the Lydian Spin with Lydia Lunch, Tim Dahl, and I must admit, one of my favorite lyricists, Matt Korvette of Piss Jeans. Now, Matt, you actually kind of seduced me with your lyrics.
Good. Yeah, that's the whole point, right?
Well, I got an email one day a couple of years ago, and I'd heard of Piss Jeans, but I never really heard them. And you asked me out of the blue, I don't know why, if I would produce your album. And I'm like, send me the lyrics. And you did. And I'm like, I think I'll do that. I had no idea what you wanted me to actually produce because you already had such a developed sound. Why don't you talk a little bit about what that experience was like, Matt?
Oh, it was great. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what I really wanted you to do either. It was just kind of like trying to tempt you into just existing in our life a little bit, you know? Hoping you might just rub off on us one way or another.
I think I rubbed against you a few times.
Yeah, no, it was fantastic. You know, it's easy to. It was like great then, but thinking back now, it's like, man, that was a magical couple of weeks there in the like Philadelphia August unbearable heat. Yeah, it was a good time.
Well, what I loved is that the band in total has such a good sense of humor. Now, I don't like humor rock, and I'm not saying that, but the band, knowing each other for so long, it just had a camaraderie. I felt of course, I did threaten to lean somebody over the bathtub and give them good spanking if they didn't do what? They did everything perfectly. All I had to do was say, hey, that's great.
No, but you said it so well, though. You know, like it's great to get some positive feedback. I don't know where we're headed with this conversation, but I was thinking about you today, and I've been having like a real up and down, like depressed couple of weeks, just with like the darkness setting in and like feeling isolated. And I was thinking about you, and you strike me as a person who doesn't get depressed. Is that accurate? Like,
Matt,
you don't strike me as happy.
It
like,
is accurate.
Like, happy, like, you know, super happy, smiley person, but you're not. Like, depression doesn't seem like it can take over you, and I'm impressed by that.
Matt, you're kind of psychic because right now I'm doing with Jasmine Hurst a documentary on artist depression, anxiety, and rage, and now I see I'm going to interview you for that. Tim and I, neither of us suffer depression, although all of our friends are miserable cunts. This is one reason. I mean, 27, the statistic is 73% of musicians have some kind of mental health issues. And in these days, and in this day and age, I mean, it's not only existential angst. First of all, chemical imbalance, trauma, hereditary genetics, our DNA, whether you can read it or not. But no, I don't get depressed, and neither does Tim. But it's because I'm an apocalyptician, and it's exactly as I've always said it fucking was. So I'm kind of sadistic in that way, is that I just sit back and go, it's fucking horrible, isn't it?
So Matt, I mean, would you say your depression's purely environmental, or did you ever suffer? Do you think you suffer from any kind of chemical?
No, I mean, yeah, I think it's just purely like I'm generally not depressed, so
Right.
it's been like a bizarre few weeks of just like waking up and feeling like utterly pointless in my day-to-day motions. I realize like I love being by myself, but it's just creepy at this point with no like.
You're also a performer, and how many shows would you say Piss Jeans last couple of years have been doing a year, which is
I mean, it's maybe 30 to 40, maybe less, but I mean, I'm always doing something.
right.
Like I love performing, but I love just talking to strangers and
Right.
hanging out and like all the things that everyone loves. And I'm just sick of being on the couch, you know, like
we had a really good
Yeah.
time. I mean, I don't usually go to bars because I consider it like a doctor going to the emergency room on the weekend. If I go into a bar, I want to be paid. But we
Sure.
went to a few bars and had a really good I love talking to strangers too. I really do. But Matt, the walls are closing in. Come to Big Mama Lunch, honey. We can Zoom anytime you want. I'll cheer you right up.
Thank you. Yeah, I remember when you were in town producing us and we went to like a club, which was I felt so damn cool to be rolling in with you. And I remember looking over at one point and you had like your leg over this guy's shoulder. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna give her some space. And then like 20 minutes later, he's outside muttering to himself, like dejected. And you're just, you know, staring him down with a smile. I have no idea what happened, but I loved witnessing you like take this guy for a ride. Just like he couldn't hang. He
Well, the
couldn't
thing
hang.
is, I'm giving him. Can you imagine my foot that close to any man's face? My thighs raised in the air. Should that not be enough for most men? Maybe he was just a little too hungry, and I wasn't going to give him anything else to eat that night.
No, that makes total sense. But it was great. It was just great seeing you be you. You know, to random ass people. You know, in a different town. Why not?
Well, you guys connect that way because I've seen your stage banter with random ass people in the crowd, or even just the one time we had dinner. So you guys have a similar character trait in that way in terms of how you interact with the public.
We hit it off immediately, Matt. We just hit it
I
off.
think neither of us get annoyed easily or like are uncomfortable or are like anxious in that way or like I don't need things to be my exact way to have a good time, you know?
I'm paid to be agitated, so I'm not really usually agitated when I'm not on stage. I don't get easily annoyed because most of the people I know are so fucking annoying. I'd never have any friends.
Do you have a little capsule of friends you can see that you trust that are also, you know, a little small community that you feel safe around?
Yeah, like a little bit. Piss Jeans, we have like a weekly like FaceTime call. I don't know. We get such great ideas rolling, but then we can't like finish because we're not really hanging
Right.
out yet.
Yep.
So it's like all just kind of a big tease. It feels like.
There's been a lot of social behavioral studies on this isolation, and that even if you're an extrovert and you're used to going out, the few times that you do actually become physically exhausting and mentally exhausting, which is so out of character with people's normal experience. So it's weird to kind of like try to force our own patterns on, superimpose them onto this current existence, and it's hard.
Right.
Well, you know, there is a thing called GarageBand. There are ways to I've done so many recordings via computer technology that there's no reason why. But of course, look, Piss Jeans in the studio or live. A rock band has to rock in the studio. It just has to be done that way.
Yeah, and I mean, we can like go back and forth talking for hours, or we could do it in 30 seconds in person with each other, and it just clicks.
Right.
You know, so it's like, I don't know. I've been doing other things too, like making music here and there, and it's fun. And even if I look back, it feels like I did a few things this year, but it's still like it's not enough, you know.
Are you still gainfully employed with your day job?
Yeah, nothing's changed with there. And I mean, I've been playing a shitload of tennis. Honestly, I have this.
Whoa.
There's this like friendly French guy who I met from the neighborhood, and we just play like 4 times a week.
Well, that's really good to keep your serotonin levels up that way. You got to have physical exercise, especially in lockdown.
How competitive do these matches get? Would you say you're equals in skill?
I mean, I whoop his ass, but like there's a mutual respect there.
Did you grow up playing tennis?
No, I picked it up when I was like 20 something.
Okay.
And like I used to play with bandmates in Piss Jeans. We would just kind of have practice and then play tennis. I don't know. I love sports where you can just start doing it immediately if you have like the one item you need. I love
me in boxing. I have the 2 items.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, you can just start sparring at any time. Like skateboarding, if you have it, you can do it. You don't need to like so different than like snowboarding where you have to like go to a mountain and rent a pass or like participate in some sort of thing that other people have ownership of.
Well, I want to talk a little bit about your so-called career in the wrestling ring as a manager.
Oh yeah, no, I mean that needs to return as soon as it can.
Well, tell us about that. When was that? What was that?
That was kind of what I did in college instead of going on dates.
Which college was that?
I went to a university called Kutztown in PA. Keith Haring grew up there, immediately left cornfields.
Now, Matt, if we would have gone on dates, we could have wrestled and somebody could have had to manage that.
That's true.
It's too late. Not too late. Just say.
Tag team, yes.
Point.
Well, I could use a manager, but I could also be a manager. But figure four, I'll crush anybody with these thighs. Figure four, forget about it.
Yeah, no, I don't like to get hurt. I don't like to get.
So, who in the band was the wrestler?
There's the concept of kayfabe in pro wrestling, which is don't share all the secret details. Kind of like.
Oh, was he masked?
It's like kind of like a carnival version of like Omerta, like just don't really delve too deep. But yeah, Brad is a professionally trained pro wrestler. He's had his head stapled and barbed wire bats and yeah.
Why was he holding it out on me in the recording ring?
He's a gentle giant. You know what I mean? Like the people who really can kick ass are sweet. It's the ones who wish they could kick ass who are obnoxious.
Well, I'm pretty sweet until I grab you by the nuts and twist. But I mean, usually it could just a small flicker, and that's enough to take most gentle giants down. I'm not threatening anybody here.
Do you have a favorite pro wrestler?
Huh? I guess Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Oh,
whoa!
Oh yeah, yo.
No Goldust didn't do it for you.
He's all right. I mean, he's a bit of a weird backwoods queer icon.
Yeah, it's like he's got a black metal face makeup mixed with trans culture mixed with
that was bold.
Steroids.
No, that was bold. Now, Bret Hart, of course, and the Road Warriors. I interviewed them.
But both of them are dead now. R.I.P. The Road
I know. I'm more of a boxer than a wrestler, but I get it. Fun.
Yeah, well, wrestling is like it's also a bit about the showmanship,
A bit.
It all creating your. I appreciate the way it takes society and gets it wrong and spits it back out. It preys on our worst fears sometimes. Like only about 5 years ago did they stop doing the brown skinned terrorist character. Like stuff that is idiotic. They were happily pumping it out.
Well, it wasn't that kind of jihadist guy. I forget his name. He was. It was huge for his career. He came up with. He's like, I'll be the villain, and so that kills his career. He was actually a go-to us. Every time he was.
Okay,
Yeah,
so look, I solicited Spin to write an article when they existed on wrestling, and they sent me down to Nashville to interview the Road Warriors, my heroes, who just saw me like a mini version of them and laughed at me like, I'm like, body slam me. They wouldn't. So I write this article, and Spin refused to print it because my whole premise was there's more fakes in the rock arena than there is in the wrestling arena. Who in rock has had their cheek broken? Who can bench press 300 pounds? Who has been loan sharks other than maybe Eugene Robinson of Oxbow? Nobody. Nobody. They said it was too violent. The first line was, look up the names Hawk and Animal in the dictionary and you'll see the word pain.
Oh, Matt, this is a fun fact. I didn't know this because I was looking up Andre the Giant the other week or something. Guess who actually grew up next to Andre the Giant and would drive him to school regularly? And he's one of the Irish writers, one of the biggest 20th century Irish writers.
Oh,
Samuel
God,
Beckett.
She got it in one guess.
Samuel Beckett.
Sam Beckett, when he lived in France, because he had left because
Trust the Witch. Pulled
because
it right
he was
out
being
of your
censored
head.
in Ireland, and he's like, this freak of a kid, this like 7-foot 14-year-old. He's like, I gotta like him, and he was like, hey, do you want to ride? And they became like friends. Sam Beckett and fucking Andre the Giant.
All right. I can't go on. I'll go on. Beckett, a great line. I just pulled it out of your head. Because you weren't wearing a hat, I could pull it out of your head, Tim, you see? I got it.
So Matt, let's go back to your little band history here. So you're Allentown. There's some past members that are no longer in the band. Were they in the same school, or are some of the new members not from that school?
I mean, we all stopped making new friends at the age of like 13, it seems.
Whoa.
You know? Like, well, we went to high school in a town called Nazareth, which is like a suburb of Allentown, which has the Andretti brothers, like Mario, Michael. Like, they lived there. They were like the local heroes. So it's like a NASCAR town.
So the Poconos racetrack actually has some local legends. I didn't even realize that. Not that Allentown's not technically in the Poconos.
No,
but it's close. But it's close.
Too.
Okay. But still, I'm sure if you were going there, people would go nuts when the Andretti.
I mean, I would trick or treat at the Andretti's house, and it was like
shit.
A quarter-mile driveway, and they had their own branded candy bar that they would give you, like full size.
Oh,
yeah, they were throwing their weight around, and then of course, one or two of them DUIs and other weird stuff.
Did one of them die in a crash? No,
I mean, not that I know of.
Okay, it's another father-son or family one.
Earnhardt, Dale Earnhardt. Yeah.
Dale Earnhardt. That's what. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So we all lived in this like pretty lame town, and Brad was lucky enough to have a neighbor who was probably like 10, 12 years older than him, who was like the local Misfits Agnostic Front fan,
Yes.
Who was into like, good, like the real, like skipping the Green Day or whatever, like going right to the 1981 source of like classic hardcore punk, like Bad Brains, etc.
Right.
And he made Brad tapes when Brad was probably, I don't know, maybe 11 or so. And it blew his mind, and then he just filtered it all to the rest of us. And we like knew good music early on. It was kind of incredible, Who
had the first instrument in the band? I mean,
oh God, maybe Randy. He's very musically inclined. Right, like that's what I'm lucky to surround myself with people like that. I mean, I can maybe tune a bass if you gave me a couple hours,
I want to point something out. I found this very interesting in the studio with you, Matt, is that we both have the same weird, I'll call it a peccadillo. On the second and sometimes fourth line, this is really analysis here. On like the second last word, we have a tendency, both of us, to go a little flat. Now, I just know that because I go flat all the time. It's one of my signature methods of singing. But I'm like, oh my God, he's doing the same thing I always do. So I don't know if I had to use the finger on you, meaning, and it's funny because Thurwell, when I was doing recordings with him, he'd have to come in with the finger. And I mean up, 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 up. So I just found that so strange that we both had this weird placement in a verse that we both kind of just took a little dip. I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't know. It feels it's a comfortable place, maybe.
To take a dip.
Well, maybe the two of you have good ears. I always thought that was like an interesting alchemy when lead singers could sing out of tune, it still sounds good, and then there's other lead singers that are really going for it, and then they sing out of tune, you're like, oh God. So it's kind of like the thing about John Coltrane, it's like you can play a million wrong notes. It's just about when you fucking play them. So if you're doing microtonal shit here and there, if it's placed in the right place, no one gives a fuck.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like my strength is I'm willing to like share my real self. I feel like it feels good. It's like in the context of making music, especially if it's a topic or place where people may not want to go there necessarily. Like I just love delving into myself as much as I can. And so that may not be musically the most American Idol centric sort of
Well,
successful tune,
but again,
you know.
it was the bizarre content of the lyrics that just made me go, I got to get with these guys. When did you first decide that, okay, you got to write some lyrics and you're going to be a singer and that's that?
I mean, the first band I ever did was also with Brad and Randy, and we were called Citizens Unheard. I think I was like 14 years old. They were probably 15. And even then, I was thinking, like, I was still singing honestly, and like my worldview at the time was, what do my friends look like? So a lot of our songs were just about like our friends and specific, like the dumbest shit, but it was like sincere. I wasn't singing about like war atrocities or, some sort of fantastical demons and wizards stuff. It was really just like, Zach he looks stupid because he has a mullet his parents haven't gotten rid of yet. Me and Joel, we have a similar body type. And so it was like completely pointless music on so many levels.
So it was a good play. So you would take to the stage just to be a snotty brat to your friends, and that's how you got into lyrical. All right.
I mean, it was, my worldview was like 1 inch wide, but that's what I was sharing at the time. I feel like since then I've been, played music where it's been more like thematic. But then once Piss Jeans started, it was like, all right, I'm like 23 or 24 or something, and things are suddenly weird and different, and like this, I'm just gonna go there, because a lot of like this punk scene surrounding me at the time was like skate or mosh, like go mosh, cops suck, ride your skateboard with a skeleton, like it was all just like generic as fuck, and that didn't speak to me.
When was your first date with a girl or a boy? I'm just getting schizophrenic on you right now for a minute.
No, that's cool. Yeah. I was like just starting. I was probably 18 or 19.
Late.
Probably
bloomer.
18.
Ooh, late.
Oh yeah. Man, I mean, with me, Brad, like the only one in our group of friends, Randy had a girlfriend. The rest of us, we were just trying to put on costumes and do bands and stuff, So
you needed a girl who liked to see guys in costumes, honey.
Yeah, I mean, well, we lived in Nazareth, Pennsylvania. Like
you should have got a hold of me when you were 20.
So what kind of guys in your high school were the girls going after if they weren't going after Piss Jeans?
I don't know. I mean, like, well, it just didn't even occur to us. I don't know. I was probably scared to death of them too. And
okay, Matt, stop right there. You were scared to death of girls, and then a few years later, you contact me. That's why I love you.
I've grown. I've contacted the scariest girl of them all. What's not to be proud of?
Sweetest girl you've ever met.
Oh, now, the band's been around for a while and you guys have known each other forever. Do you get free reign with the lyrics? Do they ever kind of come in and say, yeah, you got to change that. That's not working.
You try doing that to me, doll. I don't think so.
I wouldn't try doing that. I'm talking about their experience. I'm curious how the process works.
No, as always, Lydia's right on this one. Yeah, but like they're not trying to. I mean, like I try to bring them the very best too.
Nice.
And I'm very critical. Like I keep a running list of song ideas, and I would say 80% of them are utter garbage that I just
Well, the 20% is fucking great. Do you ever go to them and say, "Man, that riff is not
exactly the other way around"?
Oh, totally, yeah.
Nice. Oh, it's a dictatorship. Cool.
No, I mean, we all do though. We're all like, working on it, because we're in a tough spot now because we've been a band for like a long time,
Right.
and we want to still sound like Piss Jeans, but we don't want to repeat ourselves. You know,
Okay.
we don't want to have like, here's the new Piss Jeans record, it's all electronic, or suddenly we're
Right.
only playing really fast or really slow. Like, we want to keep it so that people can hear it and be like, that sounds like Piss Jeans, but we want to grow at the same time. And it's just like,
Well, and let me
after a
tell you,
few albums,
let me
it's
tell
tough.
you, let me tell you something, Matt. It doesn't matter how long it takes. I'm going to refer this to like literature. We can look at Hubert Selby Jr. 4 books in most of his life, another 2 at the end of his life. One took 16 years to write. It doesn't matter how much you put out. It just has to be the best that you can do at that time. And in the meantime,
Definitely.
you're doing other stuff. You're doing other music and you're doing other stuff. So, you know, how did you even get signed to SubPop? And did you do any touring with any of those other bands that
Oh,
picked up?
no, we had with our friends a warehouse space that we rented in Allentown. This was before anyone realized you could have like non-smoking spaces. So it was, you'd spend a night there and you'd have to throw your clothes away at the end of the night. And we really, like, bands would play there and it would be full on. Like, some bands hated it, others loved it because the audience was very engaged, like, not in a moshing way, but in a, like, we will scream at you to keep playing, or we will, maybe even mock you a little bit, or just like, we're really paying attention. You know what I mean? It's like a very, like, things are on, and it was such a fertile, like, creative place to be, and we were loving it. And there was no thought of like, are we going to look for a label? It was, we have friends that are putting out our records. What could be better than that? And some guy at SubPop who was definitely like one of the most like adventurous listeners there. He, got into Wolf Eyes and Comets on Fire and Shabazz Palaces. He heard Piss Jeans on WFMU and was just like, I'm curious about this. Let me reach out. And I mean, I crapped my pants when I got the email. Like, it was inconceivable. I'm not aiming to be anything. It's like, we've already got the best thing going with our like 50 to like 100 max people who were all getting wasted and spray painting their faces and, locking the doors when you hear that the cops showed up. Like, it was great. And then finding out about that was just like, well, sure. Well, of course we'll do this. Which, yeah.
Did you ever tour with any other SubPop bands?
Recently, we've toured with Mudhoney a few times, which is like the best because they've got their built-in audience who's receptive to us, who might be people who like don't pay attention to a lot of new music, so they need Mudhoney to be like, hey, here's another band you might like.
So they like
and
you.
those dudes are great.
The audiences liked you.
Oh yeah, I mean, I love
Great.
not headlining too. Just like, you get to hang out. And
I don't care when I go on. I'd like to go on at 9 o'clock in the morning, but that's just the evangelical in me.
And I love playing and then getting praised afterwards.
Yeah, well, that's where we might differ, because nobody can praise me as much as I praise myself, and it's, in a sense, I'm there. I think I have a duty to give certain people who come to me. I need to verbalize what they can't. I need to give them something they can't get anywhere else. But I don't really live for their applause. It's not that I'm rejecting it, but I feel more, in a sense, it's weird, like my public's servant, in a sense that, no, I don't need, this is why I like spoken word. There's no time for applause. Quiet down. Quiet down. I call the merchandise table the hugging booth. I do give free hugs because people need them, but I applaud you. I'll hear Matt. Matt, yay.
Yay.
Hi, Matt. Love you, Matt.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that stuff.
Okay.
And when you headline, everyone left by the time you get out there, so you don't get a little whiff of. Yeah, I love to smell myself.
Packing up gear, yeah, exactly. Packing up gear and all that shit, and then it's gone. Yeah.
Well, I don't pack up gear. That's the beauty of me.
Oh,
is that
nice.
I leave it to others. Yeah.
You go out back and play a few rounds of tennis.
You don't have like an elaborate weird microphone like Bob Barker that you have to really like pack away and.
Like, in my life, I think I've owned 2 amps. One I got when I was 13 when I got a bass. I just don't have gear or any of that stuff.
I'm so excited because my neighbor who's moving out gave me Now I have my Fender Squire that Bob Quine picked out for me, which I've had for decades. I never play it. My neighbor gave me a black mini Fender Squire. Oh, it's so fucking cute. I might pick up the guitar again.
Whoa.
Oh, that's awesome.
Have you been reading, watching TV, or just staring blankly into space during this 6-month quarantine?
Well, no, I've been doing a great job of reading books and watching movies. You know,
And
like
give us some examples of what.
oh man, let me. You know what? I read a great book about the life of Sarah Bernhardt, the French actress, the 1800s. In there, she was just like she would sleep in a coffin, and she would have a pet alligator that she'd feed champagne that would die then because she only fed it champagne. Like, just a great story. What else?
Anita Berber. Did you ever hear of her? She was in Weimar, Berlin, and she was like the first performance artist who'd go on stage nude under a mink coat with a monkey and shoot up morphine, died of like a cocaine and champagne overdose, and kind of the original Karen Finley. Nina Hagen supposedly did a play about her. There's 2 great books about that period. One is called The Hot Girls of Weimar, Berlin, and the other is called Voluptuous Panic. I really recommend them, Matt. Both written by Professor Matt Blank.
I love hearing about like lunatic artists who existed so long ago that it's like no one who's a great grandchild of them even would know who they existed. You know, it just like it's reassuring somehow. You know, just passionate, insane art people brings me joy.
And the thing is that insane artists have been, I mean, forever. Again, going back, 73% of musicians having mental health. I mean, creativity, curse or blessing. And there has always been, that's why when, young people complain to me, there's no visionaries in my age group. I'm like, that doesn't matter. That's why history exists. There's architects, there's musicians, there's writers, there's artists, there's performance artists that go back hundreds and even thousands of years. So it doesn't matter if right now it feels like, we're at the river Styx waiting for it and it has dried up. There's other times in history to refer back to.
I mean, I feel also though that there probably is some completely genius, psychotic 20-year-old right now that none of us know.
No.
And they, in decades from now, it will be revealed. In addition, like, I don't necessarily want to immediately understand the insane art of a 20-year-old at this point. You know what I mean? Like, it shouldn't make perfect sense to me right away because they're probably using technology that I find repulsive.
If I started something called Ass Book, would you be on it?
I mean, that sounds much better. Yeah.
All right, I'll think about it. But
just
look,
a local, like a worldwide community for asses. That sounds.
Well, I mean, I think that already exists, and it's called Facebook. But I'm not dissing anybody who has Facebook.
I wanted to do hate book for years, and for someone
Nice.
else owns that, and the idea was people get together and they agree upon who they hate, and then it actually makes them bond on some level. So it's so let's go back to the analog world then. Is there a Philadelphia hoagie that you prefer? I mean, Philly's so famous for its sandwiches.
Man, you know what? Like, there's a lot of things I love about Philadelphia, but
Sure.
a lot of Philadelphia is like so proud of being like dumbasses, and I'm not like, that's like our main food is the cheesesteak and the soft pretzel, and like it's just kind of it's nothing that I'm proud of.
Okay, Tim Dahl, Tim, have you ever seen me put a fucking sandwich in my mouth?
I've seen you pick at a sandwich, but they don't repulse you as much as a hot dog or movie popcorn.
Hey! I want a sandwich without bread, which means a slab of whatever's in between those slices.
I'm a born New Yorker. I should mention from.
I'm a born New Yorker. Go ahead.
Yeah, my family's from like New York City, like Manhattan and Hoboken.
Okay.
So I feel like I have like a spiritual kinship with that area,
Sure. And so now you choose to live in Philly. Is that because the band decided just to move to Philly, or?
I mean, my family moved around when I was a kid, and then graduating college, it seemed like the next, I got a job in Philadelphia, and this is like Philadelphia. We're playing, Sun City Girls were coming to Philadelphia, not Allentown, and there's like places to go dancing to, Oasis or something, that Allentown had one club that would play, the most Britney Spears or something. So it seemed like I needed to step up my worldview a little bit.
So you like going dancing?
Oh, of
So
course,
do I.
yeah.
So I love going dancing. So what do you prefer to dance to?
I don't know. Like, I prefer to dance in like a state of drunkenness,
So it
just
doesn't matter
because
what's
it feels
playing.
good. I mean, probably like hip hop, probably hip hop between the years of like 2002 and like 2009, maybe.
Okay, all right.
Just anthemic, like music that you can borderline mosh to, but it's hip hop.
I'm going to have to challenge you to a dance-off, but we're going to have to go.
Now we're talking.
We're going to have to go between Joe Tex and Jay-Z. What?
There's some good stuff in those years. There's some
I'm telling you.
golden stuff.
I mean, I spend so much of my days listening to like just repetitive techno, and that can hook me in, but it's not really something that I would dance to as much as like something with more of a hook.
You will not catch me on the dance floor to techno unless I'm strangling the DJ.
Do you like classic, original, old school Detroit techno, or just the stuff that's coming out?
Sure, or just even like modern updates of that stuff.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so I listen to way more instrumental electronic music. I love repetitive shit. That gets me going. If you got a good riff, just let it go for 8 minutes. If you've got like a good hook on like a keyboard.
Okay, Matt, I'm sorry, but you're inspiring me to ask this question. What kind of music do you like to play when you're having sex, if any? I've never asked anybody that, but because I sometimes like to have sex to murder rap.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, nothing really springs to mind.
Nothing pops up.
Well, back in some days with the right people, I would say murder rap that got me going.
Okay, yeah. No, I mean, like, for as much as I love music, it hasn't really entered the carnal world for me in the same way,
Yeah, well, wait till I stick a USB up your ass, honey. It'll enter you in the car. Man, I did not say that. I did not.
And would you be first in line for this? Or I don't even think it's possible. I don't think they would give it to you. But are you a little worried about the first generation vaccine?
No, I mean, I'm give it to me. Who cares?
Okay, all right.
Did you get a flu shot?
No, I mean, I don't leave the house. Like I'm as safe as it gets. I don't know. Give me the vaccine. That's fine.
Can I come over with a syringe?
As long as you promise it's a COVID vaccine, yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, I do consider myself a super spreader, but not of the COVID.
So let's go back to the production where you're all in the studio, because it's interesting with production. There's some producers are very actively involved in the music, but some just create an ambiance that just changes the mood and it just makes it better. Was it kind of like all of the above, or was just, and whose idea was this to like, let's bring her in the studio? Is this going to kind of give us the
that was my idea. I just like, I don't know. I don't know chord progressions or keys.
Okay.
But I know
Matt, I don't know a key is something you put in a lock, a chord is something you put around somebody's neck. I've got no idea.
But like I know how to like try to make things interesting, or like I want to be intrigued or not sure what the result will be. And not like in an experimental way, just in like let me gum up the works a little bit here, let me like make this interesting to myself. I've been in the studio a million of times before, and it's all pretty regimented. So this seemed like a chance to try something fun and unexpected,
Matt, do you remember one horrible incident where I was outside and I can't remember whose shirt down the back went a lit cigarette?
Yeah, that was Sean's. I remember that.
I didn't mean to do it. I just was flicking some ash and mysteriously, how did it get down the back? I didn't mean to do that, I have to say.
Yeah, I mean, I was watching my back after that moment.
Well, especially when I'm threatening to bend you over the bathtub if you're too naughty or not naughty enough. I think, Tim, it was just creating an ambiance because,
sure.
I'm like the den mother. I'm very encouraging. I'm like I was a cheerleader. Did you know that, Matt?
Oh, definitely. And I remember like the first day of doing vocals. It's like, your throat is like a cast iron pan. You have to like season it a bit first. And I was completely unseasoned, and it just felt like garbage that I was producing. And like this all comes after the band played their hearts out, so you sit there
Amazing.
idly.
The recording was so good. They did such a great job.
But like
Interesting, diverse.
I'm just sitting there doing nothing, and now it's my time to produce, and I feel like I suck. But Lydia was so beneficial to like talk, like got a little heart to heart there, and like gave me some inspiration to keep at it. And then I felt great, like the confidence was key.
And then you threw down and kept throwing down, and there we were.
Yeah, it was like
you just whipped through them after that.
No, that was a good thing.
Once we knew the secret that we both have this specific little weirdness on that note, on that sentence, and that.
Wait, was the whole band hanging in the console room, or do you kind of like kick them out when you're doing?
They
your vocal
roll
tracks?
in and out. I mean, like we're also none of us are like full-time musicians, so we're all just someone's got a shift at the bar or whatever, or someone has to go back to work for a minute. So, and I mean, also we're putting in so many hours. None of us are like loving day 6 hour, 102 or whatever
but
of
we
process.
did, but we loved it, and the engineer was amazing as well. I have to say.
Arthur. Arthur. He
was amazing.
He's killing it.
And I have to say, we had a really good time. And my whole point is just, I had nothing to do. The band had their sound. The music was great. It was diverse. It was just, I really was just going rah, rah, rah.
Totally. But I mean,
which I do all the time anyway, but rah, rah.
My fear was that like, I don't know this person personally. She might just roll in and be like scrolling through her phone or something the whole time.
Not at all.
No. I mean, that was such a like a relief, but also like this is the opposite of someone who is just proud of what they did a while back and is coasting. It's like, no, it was just what we needed.
Well, and also, I mean, producer, whatever that means. And again, based on the lyrics, and I'm like, okay, I'm coming in. Whatever you want me for, well, I hope I can give it to you. And I had a fucking great time.
So we'll have to do something else.
Honey, we're going to do something else. We'll talk about that later.
Do you prefer a show where the audience already has your back and they're going to love everything you do, or do you like kind of working it and having to win them over a little bit and then?
I love an audience that's never seen us. I guess that's my preferred.
Yep.
Because we might have the chance. It's like, all right, you can play Philadelphia again to the same people who've seen you, or you can play like Harrisburg or some random ass town for like 40 people instead of 400, and it's just exciting, to like be like these people don't know what we're about. I'm gonna give them a good dose, It's fun, like it re-energizes,
Sure.
And then sometimes it's like, what do I do to this person who's seen me play these songs 10 times, Because I want it to be fresh and like unexpected. I want there to be some twist,
I really liked when you said, of course you like your audience, Matt, but I like it when it's more than just straight white guys. And I noticed in New York, you had a very diverse crowd of all kinds of, I'd rather not call what my gender is diversity. That made me excited.
Oh, definitely. I mean, because I feel like our sound can be pigeonholed as like white guy music. And I think that's like you just have to be willing to go and like make a connection with people, like, and be honest. I don't know if you're just doing by the books heavy rock, it's just boring as hell. And, that is just for boring dudes to sit back and, like get what they expect. Like, I'd love to I want every show to have some twist that like could only have happened that night.
Well, and sometimes it's just the costumes you wear, because I've seen some pretty interesting outfits that you have paraded backstage and on stage with, and I have to say, it caught my eye.
Yeah, I mean, like, well, that's the pro wrestler in me, right? You want to like there's all sorts of, it's just like being a show person.
Well, hey, you just hit the nail, because I was just going to say, to quote Janita Sparks, who said to me once, we're show folk, it's what we do. And anytime there's something like going hard on the road or I'll snap that again, I'm always like, hey, it's show folk. We're show folk. It's what we do.
Oh, totally. I mean, I was saying to my bandmates, the thing that's like killing me right now about this pandemic is that moment, like the day after the show, when it's like 10:30 a.m. and you wake up, everyone's kind of out of the hotel, and you're figuring out where to get breakfast before you hit the road, and someone's on their phone looking up vegan restaurants or whatever, and that moment is just like where you're all convening at the van before you get breakfast. I miss it terribly.
You missed
right
that?
now.
Wow. Okay.
Oh yeah, just like because we're all like, it's quiet. Someone's putting out their cigarette. Someone is picking the CD or whatever, the iTunes, to listen to as we get the drive started. Like just I think that calm moment of like being together and like quietly present.
Even if people are hungover.
Yeah, yeah.
Tim is always really good about finding really good places to eat on the road. He's like a master He is the GPS. I mean, he just knows where to go. It's always successful.
And I mean, in our lives, we're like living moderately, but when we're at that point, it's like maybe I want an Oreo milkshake for breakfast.
Whoa,
and,
yes,
and like
exactly.
maybe Randy wants 3 Bloody Marys
Oh,
before
yeah. I love
before the eggs have arrived, and we just do it. It's like you can just get it. Oh, yeah.
Actually, I can relate. Actually, Lydia and I did a duo performance in Norfolk, Virginia, and we had our Bloody Marys with a raw oyster inside. Badass. Yes.
Oh man! And I believe we were sitting on a lake.
We know the sound. Chesapeake Bay, whatever it is.
Loved it.
See, those moments are really special, right? I mean, like I love being on stage, but it's that little quiet moment the morning before another show hits. Oh, fantastic!
So when was the last time you were tanked?
Maybe Saturday.
Okay, that was just kind of like a plumbing, just cleaning out the pipes of the brain and just kind of, I got it.
One thing that's nice is that Philadelphia at least has kind of adopted more of like a European style outdoor street drinking. Like,
you're in New York
style.
too. Yeah,
What's your favorite drink, man? What are you drinking when you're getting tanked?
Just some like giant obnoxious fruit punch with like 17 alcohols in it. Yeah.
With what? With what?
What rum, bourbon, throw it all in there, vodka.
So,
one of these kind of like Florida vacation drinks, right?
Yeah, definitely. Give me like a Cancun blue raspberry special.
Oh, you like a little umbrella in there? And
okay, well, once I did hear Tim requesting over and over that he wanted a pink lady, and he was in a lawn chair sitting in front of a palm tree relief in Germany. So we're in Germany backstage. There's a palm tree relief fund. He's sitting in a lawn chair demanding a pink lady. I don't even know what that is.
Well, I never ordered one in my life except for when I was backstage in Hanover, Germany, where you definitely couldn't get one. But we decided that night to do mushrooms on stage.
Nice.
We didn't. Well, including you, Lydia.
Hey! I don't want to be the stick in the mud.
No. It wasn't before. We gave him a real pro show.
I think we had the mushrooms on stage.
Yeah, we had like about 20 minutes left in the set, so they started they were zooming in towards the end, and then we were backstage where there was a wallpaper of a backdrop of like a Caribbean island.
Not only that, you remember what was playing on the video beside us? I do.
Vaguely.
Nazi granny porn in their underwear.
Yes, the promoter or someone
enough to end your sex drive forever.
They had moved into an old apartment in Hanover, and they found an old reel-to-reel like stash in the closet somewhere. And they're like, "What's this?"
Grannies and grandpas from the Nazi era dancing in their underwear.
1953, 90. Yeah, it was something.
Matt, hangovers from that insane cocktail you just said you like to down.
I don't really get bad hangovers.
I never get a hangover.
Nice.
No, I never get a hangover.
Strong liver.
Nordic
roots.
Russian
Nordic
blood
roots.
in me,
What's that?
Russian heritage.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Saturday, I started off with. there's so many like booze infused technology is incredible now with like carbonated seltzer, etc. So I had like an herbal boozy tea in a can. And then I switched over to these like sake bourbon drinks from
okay, I like a sake. I like a sake mule. sake, ginger beer, ooh, lime.
It was like cramming it in right before the happy hour ended. And then down the street, they have like adult slushies. So there was some like
so you really go for
strawberry
it.
bourbon.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a celebratory day. You know?
Fine. So I mean, it's interesting when you say all these new technologies. A lot of like sorority girls were dying because they were taking bong hits of vaporized alcohol because they're like, oh, I don't want the calories. But the problem is, it's the equivalent of drinking a whole bottle of vodka and you just die. But they take it in one bong hit.
You know what? Let's go back to Mae West. Champagne enemas, cocaine enemas. Not a bad idea. Hard to overdose. Feels great.
So Matt, have you now as a front man? Have you ever had a stalker?
I got like creepy letters before, if that counts.
Yeah. Well, that's
from guys or girls.
That goes with the biz.
From one woman, but it was like very flattering. You know.
Okay.
I'm open to more of that.
Matt, I think I might have to start stalking you, honey, because I think that would cheer you up. You just said you liked it. Now, being a creep as I am, no biggie to me, because you know what? The creep never gets creeped out. They just continue to creep. And Matt, I think you like me, and I think you don't mind that I'm a bit of a creep. So.
No, I love your authenticity. You know, that's what I want out of anyone. You know.
Well, you got it here, honey, and you have it in spades.
Well, if she's going to stalk you, I mean, you're dealing with a stalker Texas Ranger over there because I mean, she can fight also.
Yeah, but I can fight, which means I could defend him against other stalkers. That's all.
There you go. Exactly. Stalker Texas Ranger.
I never fight my friends. Well, once Tim and I got into a bit of a wrestling match, but I had to say it ended quickly, and I'm not proud to say it because. Well, sometimes just a pinky in you gentlemen's most sensitive places. I didn't mean to do it. It floored him. I felt bad. I'll never wrestle him again. He knows.
It was a celebratory wrestle.
Yes, because Tim is really strong. He's kind of my size. We occasionally, but I didn't mean to fell him so quickly. He did retaliate eventually by kneeling on my shoulders, but that's just what you do on tour when you're fucking bored and there's nobody else in the room to.
We all miss the tour life.
Matt, I'm here to defend you, to defend the cause, to promote and ensure your happiness. We will be in touch some more, my friend, very soon. Trust me.
What a pleasure to chat with you both.
I missed you so much, Matt. I can't wait. You know what? I'm COVID-free. Anytime, buddy. I'm moving in 2 weeks, but that's okay. Anytime. Come on up. Drive up.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Love you, my friend.
Thanks for doing it, Matt.
Thanks
for doing it, too.
One of the best lyricists out there, besides myself, of course, which is why we bonded.